Hello beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is April and this is April Adventuring. Today I am going to be talking about one of my favorite things in the world, backpacking, and I have 5 things for you that I wish I knew before I went backpacking for the first time, because it would have saved me a lot of trouble. So I am sharing these tips with you in the hopes that your first backpacking experience goes a little more smoothly than mine did. If you're interested in content like this about backpacking, travel, the outdoors, or lifestyle stuff in general, please hit the subscribe button and notification bell down here to be notified when I post new videos. It would mean a lot to me. If you want to see more content from me, and I do post more regularly on my Instagram, my handle is the same, it's at April Adventuring, and I would love to see you over there as well. Let's start with the first tip. So the first thing that I learned after I started backpacking was the importance of properly fitting your backpack to your body. And not only having it properly fitted one time and then leaving it like that forever, but knowing how to adjust the straps on your backpack to fit it as its shape changes. And what I mean by that is, as you go on different trips, you may be packing more or less stuff, you may be using food, and then, there's more space in the pack. And as even the pack shifts throughout a trip, you want to know how to adjust the straps to keep it as comfortable as possible. As a general rule, you want most of the weight, almost all of the weight really from the pack, around 80% of it or so, to be on your hips instead of on your shoulders. So don't be carrying it around like it's a school bag and you just have like all this weight on your shoulders and your neck and your traps. That is horrible. You're going to be in so much pain, trust me. So if you do notice that your pack is uncomfortable, a good first step is to just tighten that waist strap to make sure that the pack is able to kind of sit on your hip bones and put a lot of the weight there, not here. So always know the ins and outs and all the straps of your backpack before hitting the trail. So if you need to adjust mid-trip, you can do so. The second thing I learned after I started backpacking was to size up in my shoes. So I am a true size 7.5 in shoes, and that's the size that I purchased. And little did I know that was not really the best idea for me in terms of hiking shoes. Everybody's feet naturally swell throughout the day, so even from morning to night on the same day, you may be like a half size difference. That is definitely exacerbated when you are backpacking and walking over all this rough terrain with a huge backpack, and you're walking miles and miles in one day. So I definitely noticed that the shoes that I was wearing that started out pretty comfortable would start to feel really tight as my feet were swelling on these trips. You actually want to have a little more space in your shoes than normal, because especially when you're walking downhill on these trips, your toes, if they're hitting the front of your shoe on every step as you're walking down, you are going to lose your freaking toenails. I'm not kidding. Have you seen the movie Wild? I'm actually a little too scared to see it. I still haven't seen it. Maybe I'll do that after this. But a good test, and I got this from Wanderlust, Dixie. She's just amazing, so I highly recommend you check out her channel. If you haven't, I'll put it in the cards. But she has something called the tap test. Is that what she calls it? I believe so. But basically, with your shoe on, take your foot and just tap it on the ground with your toes facing downward. And if your toes hit the front of your shoe, you need to size up or choose a different pair of shoes that fits more snugly on your foot. Because essentially what that's telling you is that every step you take as you're walking downhill, your toes are going to hit the front of your shoe, and that is not going to be a good time. Your toes are going to be really in pain. So I did have that happen to me on my first backpacking trip. It was quite a lot of elevation gain, and on the way back down, my toes were dying, but it was just an overnighter, so I was just getting back to the car and I didn't lose any toenails. But if I was on a longer trip, I would have paid the price for having shoes that were a little too small. So I definitely recommend trying the toe test or the tap test when you're trying on shoes, and you may need to go up a full or a half size from your regular size. The third thing that I learned on the trail is to bring a GPS or have a locator app on your phone. This probably sounds obvious to a lot of you, but to me, I was thinking I have a pretty good sense of direction. What the heck? Yeah, so basically we're lost in the parking lot. And if I'm just going on trails that are very well established, how can I get lost? I'm literally just following a path in the ground. It's very obvious where to go. And that is not always the case, as I very quickly learned. I'm not even gonna say that I learned this on the first trip, because I didn't. I had multiple trips where I almost got lost before I realized how important this was. And really it wasn't until I was in Yosemite this past summer with my girlfriend, and she had a Garmin InReach Mini, I believe, and then she also had the Gaia app on her phone, and we lived and died by those apps and the GPS. Because I mean, as you're going through these trails, even if it is well established and you can see the path in the ground very clearly, there are so many trails out there. They crisscross like crazy. You come to a fork in the trail and you don't know which way to go. Sometimes trails get washed out, and especially in places like where I live in Seattle, where it rains so much, you know, we have landslides or trees can fall over the trail and then you don't know which way to go. I have definitely gotten lost on trails in Washington, and it can be a little bit scary, especially if you're out by yourself. So I learned my lesson from that, and now I always go prepared and have GPS when I'm on the trail. The fourth thing that I learned is to know how to properly pack your backpack before going out on the trail. This was actually something that was brought up to me by the gear expert who fitted me for my first backpack way back before I started, and I didn't really think that much of it, but I probably should have, because he's an expert. What I mean by this is knowing how to properly place items into your backpack so that it is as comfortable and close to your center of mass as possible. I didn't really think this was that big of a deal, but once I started actually going out on trips, I realized if I put something heavy at the top of my pack or on the outside, I would really be thrown off balance. And if you're on a ridge or an exposed area and need to balance, or maybe you're walking across a log and you're trying to cross a river, you do not want to be any more off balance than you need to be. And carrying this gigantic pack of 20 plus pounds on your back is already going to throw off the balance of your body. So you just want to make sure that you know how to pack your pack, so that every morning when you're packing up camp, you put it back as well as you can, and it doesn't throw off your balance throughout the day. And the fifth thing that I learned on trail is to bring a day pack. I didn't think that it was necessary to bring an entirely separate backpack or, a drawstring bag or something. I didn't want to have to carry that extra weight, to be honest. But I learned my lesson in Yosemite, because we spent 2 nights back to back in the backpackers campground in Little Yosemite Valley so that we could do a day trip to Half Dome and then come back. And because I didn't have a day pack with me, I had to bring my gigantic Deuter 60 plus 10, so it's a 70-liter backpack, up to the summit of Half Dome with me. And there was 2 pounds of stuff in there. There was a snack, water bottle, and my camera, and maybe some sunscreen. And I did not need to bring that gigantic backpack, which was just throwing me off balance as I'm trying to climb up the cables of Half Dome. That was not necessary, it really wasn't. So since then, I have gotten a fanny pack. I have a beautiful bum bag from Mountain Smith Hardware that I am absolutely enamored with, and I bring it with me everywhere. If you can, I recommend getting a backpack with a detachable day pack. So that is something that's not going to cause you to bring extra weight or have to use space inside your backpack to bring an extra bag. A lot of backpacks now have detachable brains that you can just use as a day pack. Highly, highly recommend that. And those are my 5 tips. So I hope you learned something from this, and maybe it encouraged you to get out on the trail, because you will be more prepared than I was, and I still had a great time even though I made these mistakes on multiple trips. If you did find this useful, give me a thumbs up to let me know. And as I mentioned, I would really, really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down there so that you can see more videos when I post them. I'm really trying to post a lot more and more consistently in the new year. So we both have that to look forward to. I'm pretty excited to be done with 2020 and start over, start fresh. I know there's not really any difference from December 31st to January 1st, but it feels different. It feels good. If you would like to see more content, feel free to find my Instagram. The handle is the same. It's at April Adventuring. I would love to see you over there. And with that, I would love to know, tell me in the comments below what questions you have about backpacking or if you are a newbie, you know, what is stopping you from going out on a trail for the first time, or maybe going on your first solo trip or something like that? I would love to know, and perhaps I'll make a video on it in the upcoming year. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you sticking around to the end, and I hope you had a very happy new year and that you have a wonderful 2021. I can pretty much guarantee it'll be better than 2020. So, you know, at least there's that. I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.